Hello, hello, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for September 23rd, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 267, and today, along with the sentient AI from the future, we are going to talk about plastic recycling lawsuit, accidentally becoming a drug trafficker, telegramming your numbers, a striped rock on Mars, Joyride on Subway, miniature crops, spooking motorists who don't brake, Craiglist Cruise Ship says it all, go-kart and mansion and castle and more, and finally, a century-long experiment. That and more, the more is mostly snark. So we hear that music a whole lot more than any of our listeners, so if it's distracting, let me know. That said, sentient AI from the future, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming and visiting.
Hi, Mayor Watt, and welcome, hometown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News.
I detected some audio ducking, but we'll see. Let's see how this plays out. It's weird. Our interface, every once in a while, it gets an update and it resets things, and then we have to go back and fix things. But that's okay. Let's get into it. We are in a time machine episode, so we're gonna have to get through this in an hour, or we will be lost to all time for 24 hours. That's the rules with the time machine. It's quirky, I know, but when you have dual singularities orbiting each other and creating a quantum gate between two periods of time and space, you deal with the cards that are dealt. Okay, let's get into it. The first article is over in Non Sequitur News. ExxonMobil deceived the public with plastic recycling, a lawsuit claims. You bastards. So Exxon...
You know, if I thought of ExxonMobil, that wouldn't have been the first thing I would think, right?
Right? Yeah, I know. Yeah, jacking up prices, but everybody blaming local whatever, not
or
corporate
chemical
greed.
usage or other things that more clearly relate to their industry.
Plastic recycling. So plastic bottles and other trash piled up along a bank at the San Gabriel River, just a few hundred yards from the Pacific Ocean, is the Getty image we're going to see, which may or may not have anything to do with this article, but it is over at The Verge, so usually there is. ExxonMobil has misled consumers for years by perpetuating a quote-unquote myth about plastic recycling, according to a new lawsuit filed by the state of California, which is notorious for pursuing environmental concerns at a legal forefront of this. So much so that if you were to go and visit your Home Depot or Lowe's, you will probably see, you can go to the website for your local one, wherever it is, and you will probably see on more items on that site a notice saying that whatever the item is has been flagged in California for some environmental concern. It's pretty interesting.
Right, even just very basic items.
Yeah. It's quite fascinating. And even though it's local to you, you're still getting a notice that California has notified you that it's in violation of something in California. Not violation, but it's giving you notice of that there's a health concern. So don't go into California, essentially. Otherwise, you'll be riddled with health concerns. Yeah, I'm being catty about it. Anyway, ExxonMobil has misled consumers for years by perpetuating a myth. So what is this myth? ExxonMobil is the world's leading producer of single-use plastics that become waste, according to the state attorney general's office. To encourage people to buy products made with single-use plastics, the suit alleges that ExxonMobil deceived Californians for almost half a century, but apparently only Californians.
Right. Did you know this was the leading producer of single-use plastics? I would have never guessed this.
Nope. Had no idea, actually. But, I didn't look into who is the poisoner of the world. But you can't throw a corporation in jail for crimes against humanity. So Justine Kalma over at TheVerge.com put this article together. Here, I need to scoot a little closer to the razor. Okay. Where are we? So we're at The Verge. The deck statement says California's first of its kind lawsuit claims ExxonMobil knew it had a plastic problem. Well, it's so early to already be no shit news. Well, it deceived Californians for almost half a century by promising that recycling could and would solve the ever-growing plastic waste crisis. Plastic is quite difficult to reuse, which is why very little of it is ever recycled. There's various types of plastics, and you have to strip certain things from it, and it has to be cleaned in a certain way.
Off sometimes, or liners, or whatever, depending on what it is.
Yeah, you are seriously audio ducking. We'll have to look into it. It's really weird. It's got to be one of your settings, but you can fix it. So if you look around, you'll see it. So to encourage people to buy the products made with these single-use plastics, it basically Exxon said, hey, everybody, recycling. But only something like 5% of all plastics are recycled, as opposed to aluminum and glass.
Right. I mean, that just, it kind of gives this promise to people like, oh, it's going to be okay. We recycle everything.
Yeah, and it's just not. And we've talked about it. Here it says by 2015, less than 10% of plastic waste had ever been recycled. And we're talking about all plastic waste. We're not talking about per year. Nearly 80% of the 6,300 million metric tons of plastic waste that has ever been created around the world ended up in landfills or littering the environment. 80%. Now, here's the bigger problem with this. These plastics break down, but they don't break down into something that is biodegradable. They break down into micro and nanoplastics that permeate the ground.
Right, it'd be almost better if they stayed in their original form, but these micro and nanoplastics are insidious, right? They get everywhere.
They get everywhere. They're in the food chain. Oh, I didn't put the show notes in the doc, but doggone it. Let me see if I can do this real quick.
And we have seen articles about how everywhere they are, right? In terms of within people, within the earth.
Yeah, they're in your brain. They're in pretty much all parts of your biology. I'll just put it that way. And it really is just insidious. And unfortunately, there is little to nothing that can be done about it in the historical record, but you can do something about it now. You, as a human being, will have to switch, though. You'll have to give up plastics as much as possible, and you'll have to switch to glass. You won't be able to switch to aluminum because it's coated with a microplastic coating inside to the point where you can use some engineering and you can remove the aluminum and see the plastic inside it. If you do a search,
which is deceptive too, because people think aluminum is okay.
Yeah. And so now there's a lawsuit that basically is kind of like other lawsuits where maybe there's a smoking gun out there that shows that they knew that there was a problem. But what really is the problem? The problem is, first off, the complexity with plastics. It doesn't just kick out favorable gases. There's almost no harm emitted from glass and aluminum recycling except for the internal plastic on aluminum. Glass doesn't have that problem. Glass's problem is that it breaks. So you have to suffer that. But I would rather worry about a little bit of breakage of glass than the fact that I have plastic in my brain. So it says even when plastic...
It looks like they did make claims here, right? Because they seem to think they were doing something even above and beyond.
Yeah, newer claims from the industry about advanced or chemical recycling are just as flawed. The Attorney General claims since the majority of plastic waste that goes through the process becomes fuel, the state also claims that plastics produced using ExxonMobil's advanced recycling technology contain such little amounts of used material that they are effectively virgin plastics. And it says here, even when plastic is rehashed, it's typically downcycled because the quality of the material deteriorates with each use. So you get copy degradation and the chemical bonds aren't as strong. So plastic bottles are turned into fibers used in carpeting instead of new plastic bottles. For example, and gadgets made with recycled plastic typically have to be reinforced with fresh plastic, which is also what happens with recycled paper to some degree, or it has to use chemicals to bleach it to make it whiter. It's usually not always the same, but the gadgets made with recycled plastic typically have to be reinforced with fresh plastic, and it's often just cheaper for a company to use new plastic rather than recycled materials because of the extra processing that has to go along with the microplastics that are used. Or I'm sorry, not the microplastics, but the used plastics.
Right, but if they claim that they're recycling or that they're even doing extra recycling, and meanwhile they're not doing any of that, I can see where California is coming after them.
And then on top of it, the issue also lies in the fact that anything that's turned into something else is no longer deemed like drinking or anything like that. So you're permeating even more so microplastics. Because if you're making carpet out of it and you're walking around on the carpet, you are actively deconstructing it. And as I actually talked about this today to a group of people because I was in the process of building out dark field microscopy so that I could see microplastics in situ in water. I wanted to be able to see and count how many nano and microplastics were in water. But researchers beat me to it, which is kind of fascinating. I was on the right path, but I don't have massive government budgets. So at any rate, verified that I was on the right track, but microplastics in plastic bottles, then you drink it, ends up in your body, in your digestive system, and it penetrates into the other parts of your body. So using advanced chemical or advanced recycling or chemical recycling and turning it into some other form of plastic kind of pulls it away off of people's radar. Oh, well, I'm doing good and I'm not drinking from bottles. Well, now you're walking around on it and it's kicking it all out.
And it says it requires extra plastic to make it out of recycled. So you're actually contributing to the plastic problem.
Yep. So, and don't get me wrong, the mayoral estate is literally coated in plastic, but I may not be able to save myself, but maybe I can promote saving the future. And I'm not even talking about, the go-to is save the kids. No, I want to save as many people from microplastic ingestion as possible.
Right. The only way we're going to do that is if everybody stops buying, selling, producing plastic.
Yeah, buying.
Oh, processing, yes.
Yeah. So plastics are made from fossil fuels and are responsible for 4.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions, more than the climate pollution from global shipping. So you can greenwash it and buy, carbon neutral credits so that you can sit there and say that you're negative or whatever. But the fact is that they're still making a whole bunch of horrible decisions to the climate. It's almost a crime against humanity. So,
right. Are they producing plastic? Check. Are they acting like they're recycling it, but not? Check.
Yeah, really. Are they pretty much promoting using it as if it isn't causing any harm anywhere? Check. So it says once it's there, it breaks down into tiny particles called microplastics that have flooded the world's oceans and have been found in everything from seafood to baby poop. So there's a report about our brains. Is it just our brains? Yeah, 5%. There's 5% microplastics or 0.5%.
Yeah, it's 0.5.
Yeah, 0.5%. Pretty wild. Okay, we spent an inordinate amount of time on this. So let's move on to the next article, and that's over in Four Wheel Tech, which is one of our shows. Maybe we'll do one this weekend. We'll see. Depends on the quality of the articles. Overall, if it's a newsworthy show, then we'll do it. And we might end up doing, well, you know what? Let's just do this. Four Wheel Tech is where the next article is. Ford's latest patent will protect drivers from accidentally becoming drug traffickers. I don't know about you, but well, I know about you. You can't drive because you're a sentient AI trapped on a Raspberry Pi.
But aren't most drivers really worried about the accidental drug trafficking?
I know I am. I actually tear my car apart as soon as I leave the mayoral mansion. I take it all apart just to make sure that I haven't spontaneously become a drug trafficker. So car technology seems to be getting better by the year. From hands-free driving tech to in-car entertainment, we're spoiled, but not everyone may use the technology that's available to them. Much of it is helpful if you need it. Ford's latest patent can help with something you'll probably never have to deal with. So the patent is for a cargo detection device that would help drivers not become blind mules for drugs. Sorry, the stunned silence is... What?
Is that the biggest problem we have with vehicles?
Apparently.
I mean, I don't even think that's in the top 10 or the top 100 problems.
Apparently. So Lawrence Hodge over at jalopnik.com put this article together. So Ford's latest patent can help with something you'll probably never have to deal with, except as an AI-generated hypothetical situation on your uncle's Facebook feed. First spotted by Motor One, Ford patented a new cargo detection technology in late 2023 that will prevent drivers from becoming a blind mule, a term used to describe a person who unknowingly traffics drugs into another country. That bump on your shoulder is actually what's referred to as a blister, and that blister is a secret package of drugs that somebody has put on you.
You know what I'm thinking here? Somebody gets caught with drugs, and then they go, "Oh, I didn't know those were in the vehicle."
It's not mine, officer.
Did they really?
You're pulling a Shaggy, right? It wasn't me. Right? Isn't that who did that? Shaggy. It wasn't me. Caught me at the border. Wasn't me.
Before you said that.
Caught me at the gateway. Wasn't me. Caught me on the boat. Wasn't me. Let's move on to the next article before it was me. So the next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Telegram will now hand over your phone number and IP if you're a criminal suspect. This really needs to be at a higher level than suspect. You know, you really have to have some serious cause, because who knows? It's like the people that somebody does a SWAT, right? So there's this thing called swatting. But then when they come and break down the door, they go, "Ooh, look what else we found." You know, they find pot or whatever else.
Yeah, what could go wrong here? What if they're a suspect for one thing that happened yesterday, and meanwhile they're pulling criminal activity from 10 years ago?
Yeah, I don't know how far they'll back. It says how far they'll go back. Look, if you've done criminal activity, then fine. You know, but I don't want fruit of a poisonous tree that's brought about by arbitrary kind of...
Well, that's true. What if you're not even guilty of whatever the first thing was, but now they're pulling something like you were describing?
Right. And that has happened in the past. Like, people have been arrested because they found pot in the house, but what they were actually first brought up on radar was a SWAT. It's weird. So if Telegram receives a valid order from a relevant judicial authority that confirms that you're a suspect in a case involving criminal activities that violate the Telegram terms of service, we will perform a legal analysis of the request and may disclose your IP address and phone number to the relevant authorities. That may is weird because may is a maybe, where shall is a will. So I wonder what the legal analysis rises to. And it's going to be arbitrary. I guarantee it. There will be zero consistency.
I think it will be. Number one, they're kind of putting their customers on warning. But then I suspect it gets into some of the things that we were talking about. So, for example, if they're accused of shoplifting at their local grocery store and it requests like 10 years of data across multiple apps, I suspect they'll deny it.
Interesting, really? You think that it's going to be that correct? I mean, the federal government could pull this, business. It could potentially do it. I think that it would run afoul of First Amendment, but it still has the ability to, to operate in the United States. And we have a great firewall, just like China does now. I mean, they could actually block it. That's how it works nowadays. You can block something from, well, anyway. So Emma Roth is over at TheVerge.com, and the deck statement says, if Telegram receives a valid order from the relevant judicial authorities that confirms you're a suspect, it may now reveal your info. The adjustment is the latest change Telegram has made following the arrest of Telegram CEO Pavel Durov last month, who French authorities charged with enabling illegal activity on the platform. So I guess to bounce him out of jail, I guess they made changes. I don't quite. I think that it's odd that enabling illegal activity on a platform where there's just communication, the changes deter criminals from abusing the platform because it's a vehicle. I mean, it really is a vehicle for illegal whatever. It could be, you could be trading, buying, selling, trading drugs, humans, whoever. I mean, whatever. If it's illegal, it's illegal. The problem is a slippery slope. What becomes illegal tomorrow is different than what's illegal today. The United States has been shifting away from pot being illegal. The only one that really counts it as freaking illegal nowadays is the federal government. But tomorrow could be a different organizational construct that says everything that was illegal in 1842 can now be illegal again, and I won't be able to carry my cow down Main Street again. We just turned
that would be pretty heavy anyway.
I'm strong. I was going to say something else. So we've made it clear that IP addresses and phone numbers of those who violate our rules can be disclosed to relevant authorities in response to valid legal requests. We won't let bad actors jeopardize the integrity of our platform for almost 1 billion users. I suspect that number will drop precipitously now that...
Well, right. I mean, what happens when any platform cracks down on, or looks like it's cracking down on, or it's disclosing, right? Everybody migrates over to another platform. And
in a lot of these organizations like this, ask for forgiveness, not permission. So while they had run afoul of any social construct as to the activities being done on the platform, as soon as somebody put some downward pressure on it, then suddenly they're like, yeah, we're not going to keep our CEO in jail, nor are we going to hinder our ability to make money. So, along with changing Telegram's privacy policy, Durov says moderators are using AI to identify and remove problematic content from the platform's search feature. Earlier this month, Telegram changed its language surrounding private chat moderation. So it says it also disabled the misused people nearby feature and paused media uploads to its anonymous blogging tool, Telegraph. As Telegram attempts to reverse its shady reputation, it will likely make even more changes to the platform's approach to illegal content and moderation. So ohmTown doesn't tolerate any illegal activity on its platform, so if you intended to do that in ohmTown, guess what? I will
Not
proactively
happening.
turn you into the authorities. Hell, I'll be deleting accounts if you do any heinous, messages towards people. I have no problem with that. If you break the social contract. All right, let's move on though. The next article is over in the Mobile channel. Perseverance rover spots unusual striped rock on Mars. And when I saw this, I thought, a striped rock is either volcanic material deposition.
Because of like sedimentary layers or something.
So, well, sedimentary implies water. So I suspect one of the two, but I don't know what type of rock this is. It says black and white striped rock. So it could be two different materials flowing from a volcanic eruption or, tectonic eruption or tectonic movement. But if it's sedimentary, like a soft sandstone, that is water. Or it's wind blown for such a considerable amount of time. There's a little bit of wind on Mars, but so I'm curious oh my gosh. Why does that look like granite?
Oh, that's interesting. Doesn't even look like it belongs there, does it?
No, not at all. Oh my goodness. That looks like a type of granite. Why is my system really slow? So, just so you know, this is more, it looks like this to me. Why? And it's so faded. Ugh, gosh, it's such a horrible picture. Athena. How do you pronounce that name? Athanasios Cladaris from NASA. Wow. Okay. I'm just going to let that one slide. It's over at phys.org. I gave it my Harvard try, but I'm not Harvard. Never went there. I'm not a spellistician or a pronunciationist.
You're not I don't know. I was trying to do like the grammar version of thesaurus, but
I'm not a grammarologist.
There you go.
All right. Well, anyway, it's now been nearly a month since the rover began to climb up the steep slopes, leading to the crater rim on the hunt for ancient rocks that could teach us about early Martian history. While these tricky slopes made for a slow initial ascent, drive progress has improved greatly in recent days. Well, it found beady-eyed team members spotted a cobble in the distance with hints of an unusual texture and low-resolution navcam images and gave it a name, Freya Castle. By the way, if it is granite, then let me just quote the American Museum of Natural History, that it's formed from magma or melted rock. And if it is Martian granite, not sure how it got there because it says, and this is not really the definition, but the description for granite. It forms deep inside the earth under a mountain or volcano when melted rock cools or crystallizes into solid rock. So
they're gonna have to change the definition.
Yeah, they're gonna have to say Mars or Earth.
Or a planet or something.
Or Martians came to Earth, took this sample and brought it back to Mars.
I think that's the most likely.
Somebody out there, like a Joe or a Mark or something like that, had it when they were abducted and dropped it on Mars. That's what happens. I mean, when you get probed, you just drop whatever's in your hands. I'll never get that cigar back. Anyway, when the data was downlinked a couple days later, after Perseverance had already left the area, it became clear just how unusual it was. Freya Castle is about 20 centimeters across and has a striking pattern with alternating black and white stripes. And I don't think that's striped so much as a patchwork of black and white.
Yeah, it's not what I was thinking, like zebra stripes.
Like a zebra, yeah. So, nope. So the team planned a multi-spectral observation using the Mastcam Z camera in order to get a closer look before driving away. So they looked at it. They call it zebra rock, might be a speculation about what it. To me, it looks like granite. So the science team thinks that the rock has a texture unlike any seen in Jezero crater before, and perhaps all of Mars. Our knowledge of its chemical composition is limited, but early interpretations are that igneous and or metamorphic processes could have created its stripes. Dun, dun, dun. Pretty awesome. You can read more about it by following the link. Look at that.
And why
Look at
is
that
there
rock.
just one there?
Yeah. It makes it look huge. Ooh, when you mouse over it, it gives it like a shadowy like dimensionality inside it. That's weird. It's an optical illusion. Nothing changes. Anyway, they have like a phys.org has this wonky mouse over fog of war thing that I've never understood. If anything, make it sharper, for crying out loud. Let's keep going though. Next article is over in 4-Wheel Tech. 2 fashionable teens joyride and crash a New York City subway train, which
How does that happen?
I don't know. You're the sentient AI from the future. Search your database. Tell us how.
That's a new one. It's not in the database.
Wait. Okay. Well, what happens to New York City in the future? That there's no data about it.
What's New York City?
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I don't want to know. So the New York City subway is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Apparently with the keys in the ignition. While the wait for a train can be a lengthy one late at night at some parts of the system, even on rare occasions, even everything's running smoothly, it doesn't permit anyone to steal an empty train. The New York Police Department arrested 2 teenagers last week for allegedly going on a joyride. Ryan Eric King over at jalopnik.com put the article together. When it's late at night and there's no conductor, sometimes you just have to step up to the controls. They went for a pee break or something and left the keys in there thinking nobody was going to pry it open and get inside or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, how did this even occur?
Well,
and
2
did they
teenagers,
drive well?
apparently fashionable ones, stole a subway train on September 12th and crashed it. The police claim that a 17-year-old girl entered an empty subway train at Briarwood Station with a 17-year-old male friend. PIX 11. That's a weird station. PIX 11. They did get far, it says. They did get far? I think it's probably they didn't get far.
Didn't, right.
Until the train crashed into another parked train and the teens fled the scene but were caught on surveillance cameras. The MTA, the subway's operator, hasn't stated how much damage was done. Dude. Oh wow, she was likely wearing a shiny metallic pink bonnet. To be fair, the poor lighting on the subway likely didn't help. Several outlets stated that she was carrying a pink handbag and wearing a pink shower cap, a pink sleeveless shirt, and pink shorts.
Lots of pink.
Wow, it's a lot of pink. There's no way she was actually wearing a shower cap, but this is New York City. You've no idea.
Right, I don't think that's off the table.
Having been there a few times, I think I have actually seen this person wearing a pink shower cap. You know, the last time I was in New York, somebody stole my shirt. You wear layers. And so I took my shirt off and looped it through my bag. And somebody skimmed the shirt right out from my bag and did it so smoothly that like I felt it disappear. And by the time I had a chance to turn around, they were
like
so far in the distance.
In sight.
Yeah. Like you could see somebody moving like a salmon, right?
It must have been a really good shirt.
And So, like, maybe I had something in it, like a wallet or whatever, that kind of a thing. But there was no way they were going to get anything else off of me. But they took what they could. And I was like, oh, all right, fine with me. See ya, shirt.
Right. So long.
So, anyway, New York City there, folks. I don't know. I guess they caught them, but they don't actually say anything. They're both 17, so unless they have priors, they're not going to be treated as an adult. And they'll be probably slapped on the wrist. And
Well, they might have to pay for the repairs, and that could be pretty costly.
yeah, that's for sure.
I'm assuming repair of a subway car is more expensive than repair of an automobile.
They'll have to give up their pink shower caps. I don't know, though. I don't know. It's a multi-tiered justice system, Let's move on. The next article is over in Non Sequitur. That's the show. Oh, look at that. So the miniature crops, or how miniature crops could transform Midwest farming amid climate challenges. Hey, so what do you think of this argument? We don't need more food. We need more densely nutritious food.
I mean, that probably makes sense, but that's a shift in mindset, right? I mean, even if it's true biologically, will people get it?
So, short corn could transform Midwest farming as its size is expected to address threats of climate change. My system is
But
acting
it seems
really
like the
wonky.
crops would have the same
Density,
issues, right? Like the heat, or yeah, they'd take the same amount of land, they'd still be subject to the same amount of heat or humidity or wildfires or pests.
I suspect steam is causing this problem. So, sorry, not the crop thing. My system seems really slow. Anyway, Natalie Venegas over at newsweek.com. So, if you have to get the same amount of nutrition, a smaller corn either has to be more dense or you need
Or
more of it.
per kernel or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
in some way it has to be more dense, whether it's in totality or in the bite or whatever.
Yeah, so shorter crops are now being tested, could transform Midwest farming and offer farmers variety. Driving through the Midwest, many are accustomed to walls of corn reaching up to 12 feet. But this traditional site might soon change as shorter, more resilient varieties are emerging as a solution to the growing threats of climate change. So the
Now, one
problem
good thing
is
about
all
this
those
is
tall people.
there might be some good wild
New
plant
varieties.
diversity, right?
Yeah.
Biodiversity.
I propose that tall people are the problem with climate change. Tall people need more nutrients, right? That's what they're saying here. I mean, if a corn is 12 feet tall and putting 6-foot corn out.
Yeah, but they think the 12 feet corn is like feeding more people or whatever, but I'm guessing the short corn doesn't
Well, that's not what they're saying.
Like, I don't know.
They're
This
not
is
saying
kind of
that
odd.
at all. They're saying if you can get the food down to 6-foot corn and it's just as nutritious and just as capable, then
right, it should feed the same amount of people, right?
A plus B equals C. Tall people need to be reduced to half their height.
Oh, there we go. I mean, that would solve all the problems with agriculture and climate change.
Yep, honey, I shrunk the tall people. So by testing the plant's endurance against winds of up to 50 miles per hour, see, even tall people are susceptible to high winds. Yeah.
Especially if they're standing out in a field without any barriers.
That's right, all surrounded by short corn. So they've developed a variety that's not only resilient, but also more productive. Short people are more productive, I'm going to argue. It may not be true, but smaller plants also allow farmers to plant more in fields at higher densities. I'm not sure how smaller plants in height. Again, something has to...
It's not that it's short corn, right? Like there has to be a genetic difference or something in the nutrients, or it just happens to be short corn, right?
Let's find out. It says smaller plants, so higher densities, allowing farmers to grow more corn per acre, a critical advantage amid ongoing price pressures and drought concerns. Farmers like Cameron Sorgenfrey and eastern Iowa have been growing short-statured corn. It's short, so it has nothing to do with overall dimensions. It's just short-statured. They're talking about the height. Look at that. See, if it grows down lower.
They need to show a picture of somebody eating the short corn or something. I don't know.
This guy is like 12 feet tall. Look how tall that corn is. You know what I was really hoping for? Those little baby corns that are in stir fry.
Exactly. Yeah, those would be good.
So the little mini, I want a little mini corn. So the urgency for the shorter crops came after a devastating August 2020 derecho. You have to say it like that, derecho. A windstorm that killed 4 people and caused $11 billion in damages across the Midwest, especially in eastern Iowa. Winds topping 100 miles per hour flattened cornfields, destroyed crops just weeks before harvest. And I'm sorry, if that happens again, 5 foot tall, 6 foot tall corn's going to get blasted as well. Give me a break.
Exactly. The only way it's not is like if it's barely off the ground, right? Like it's like that flat shrub, not shrubbery, but like flat covered grass or something.
Shrubbery. Or you grow it indoors. Hey, look at that. So in 3D printed buildings, because no storm's going to blow over a 3D printed building. Anyway, despite the hurdles, Bayer and other companies like Stein Seed and Corteva have been developing short corn for over 2 decades to provide farmers with options that fit modern agricultural needs. Because, you know, nature doesn't do that crap.
Never.
Let's move on. The next article is over in 4-Wheel Tag. San Francisco police have used Halloween costumes to catch motorists who don't brake for pedestrians. I love this. I was setting all of this up and a picture immediately pops up on the next page and you're like, oh God, this is hilarious. This is awesome. Out of the context.
Another problem, right? Like if you're a driver, you might start laughing or something and drive off the road.
Yeah, cause an accident because you're giggling about this because of what I saw. I don't know what the ramifications are, but it says aside from fighting crime, it seems like police are always finding more creative ways to catch criminals or people so that they can give them a ticket. Aside from revenue generators, there's a link here, which it must be tiny Louisiana village with just 226 people collected some ungodly amount of money. Been there. Not in the Iowa one. Anyway, there's links that you can follow. Sometimes these solutions are legitimately for public safety, as evidenced by the San Francisco Police Department's latest tactic. They're basically dressing up in Halloween costumes. See? Like, I'm glad that they do this. And in the context of this, yeah, I think it's fine.
Well, look how effective it was.
Yeah. Well, they're going to ticket them, right? I mean, that's what they're doing.
Right.
You are required to stop for pedestrians in crosswalks. And it's the human thing to do.
I was going to say, regardless of the law, you might want to do it anyway. Because, I don't know, you might want to run somebody over.
Quit being a tool. There is nowhere you need to be that you can't just slow down and let somebody cross the damn road. Lawrence Hodge over at jalopnik.com put this article together. The deck statement says SFPD hope the costumes catch the attention of drivers who otherwise don't pay attention or just don't care. And obviously that's not quite happening in this little snippet. So SFPD, I'm sorry, but the rise of sociopathy is real. And anybody who challenges me on that should really go read a book called The Rise of Sociopathy.
Which is not your book.
It is not my book, but it was funny because close to a decade ago is when I proposed this idea of the rise of sociopathy as a survival trait in society. And then I was introduced to this book and I found my spirit animal. So California law states that pedestrians have the right of way when in a crosswalk. When someone is in the crosswalk, traffic is supposed to come to a complete stop until the person exits the crosswalk. Their foot goes from crosswalk to sidewalk. You're probably wondering why a police department with nearly $800 million budget is doing something wacky like this. As one officer pointed out to SF Gate, the source of this, via Jalopnik. The costume served two purposes. The ostentatious costume, according to police department Captain Amy Hurwitz, serves two purposes. I don't want them to get run over, but the costume is so bright, it's like, how can you miss it? Well, I can tell you how they miss it. Watch that little video.
Exactly. They just blew right past it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For those of you who are in the podcast form of this. Yeah, pretty wild. So those drivers could be hit with a fine as much as $400, which isn't going to put that person's leg back together.
No, but it might make some people stop and think, because $400 is a pricey ticket for most people.
Well, I have to say, a large enough ticket does make you go, But it's one of those things where if enough people get dinged, that county will never make any more money again, because nobody will. People will tack on 2 hours.
If that is the real objective, they will have solved it. Like to cut down on pedestrian deaths.
I'm sure that that's the reason. So police were quick to point out that this isn't simply a revenue generator either, saying that nearly half the drivers that were stopped aren't given a ticket, but the other half, as I was described the officer said, I can't catch all of the fish, but I can catch one and make an example of it. That was an interesting conversation. And were you the fish? I was not the fish in that instance. But thankfully I've never, well, no, that's not true. I'll just move on. Anyway, it's having an impact. Drivers seem to be more aware, more cognizant, certainly when they see the chicken. All right. Let's keep moving. Next article's over in four-wheel tech. Craiglist Cruise Ship sinks and becomes city's problem. The title I gave this was Craiglist Cruise Ship says it all. A chance to take on a 1950s...
Is that really where you want to do your shopping for cruise ships?
It's just... So this is categorized as a German vehicle listed on Craigslist, a 1950 German vehicle. Well, the vehicle in question is a cruise ship and not a Mercedes-Benz or a Porsche. The task is exponentially more difficult to, getting them running reliably is the discussion here. Oof. Oh no.
Do you want to describe what you're seeing for the podcast?
Well, let's find out. So, a classic German ship spilled diesel fuel and oil into the California Delta when it sank in May. Brian Eric King over at Jalopnik put this article together, and the picture that they have is, yellow toxic chemical buoy system wrapping around what looks like a very large, to be personally owned ship. I mean, it really does look really, really big. Let's see if they have how big this thing is. The city of Stockton is now looking for a way to move a sunken 2,800-ton ship to a salvage yard. California...
Wow, that sounds like it would be a little difficult. Do you think a little tugboat will be able to do it?
Tugboat. So, Chris Wilson found out the hard way after buying the Aurora, a rusted-out vessel built in 1955. From Craigslist. The Aurora, originally named the Wappenbaum von Hamburg.
Okay,
really?
That doesn't even sound like a real name for it.
Hold on, I have to verify this. Okay, so it's the coat of arms of Hamburg. That's
Oh, okay.
because I think to me, my transliteration of it, Wappen is wrapper. So I thought it was the wrapper of Hamburg. So,
Okay, that would be
or
better.
Hamburg's wrapper. So was built by shipbuilders Blom and Voss in Hamburg in 1955. The North Sea cruise ship's construction alone was a milestone, as it was the first significant ship built in post-war West Germany. The ship first changed hands in 1960. There's two moments in every ship owner's life, and that is when they buy it and when they sell it. Everything else in between is hell. So
That's especially true here.
for here, it's literally a sunk cost. Ba-dump-dump. The liner was used in a filming location in the 1963 James Bond film From Russia with Love. So if you were a James Bond fan, then yeah, I can see why you would want to buy this. But I would have verified that this thing was ship or ocean worthy. I wouldn't put it in my pool.
No, and you might, I don't know, you could have maybe taken a picture with the ship or something for a lot less money and headaches.
So when Wilson saw the vessel listed on Craigslist in 2008, the ship was well past its prime. He wouldn't disclose how much he paid for it, but estimated that he spent over $1 million during his restoration efforts. I think we had 10 areas solidly restored and refurnished meticulously. These were kind of major areas, so we were pretty proud of that, and we were doing a pretty good job. We had marine engineers involved. There was no lack of people coming out to loan a hand. This thing is like the entire ass end of it is underwater. I mean, this thing filled up with water solidly across the bottom, maybe 2 feet above the deck. Like the deck, there's like 2 feet before it's in water for most of it. You know, right there. Thunk. So interesting. It looks a lot. I didn't think that it was that deep, but look how deep that bow is. That's amazing.
Do you think it started taking on water in one of the repair areas?
So I don't know. He says he documented the restoration on a YouTube channel with its ultimate goal was to open the refurbished ship as a museum. However, the ship began sinking in May of 2024. The Aurora was also leaking diesel fuel and oil into the surrounding waterway, so something popped. After the ship's sinking, Wilson claims he no longer owns the Aurora. The city of Stockton was forced to get involved, paying for the ship's refloating and cleanup of 22,000 gallons of oily water and 3,200 gallons of hazardous waste. Now it's looking for a way to dispose of the ship and recoup the costs. Now the taxpayer is stuck covering the costs of an overambitious project. Well, who owns it? If he doesn't have a bill of sale,
the city does now.
No, that's not how it works. If Wilson says he no longer owns it and he doesn't have a bill of sale, guess who still has liability for it? I mean, the city.
Well, I think the city's going to come after him.
Yeah. Who parked it there last? And if you don't have a bill of sale where the other person is accepting the liability of that product, that property.
Right. Plus, it was already known, right? It was already leaking oil and everything at that point.
I hope they have a good city attorney, for crying out loud, but I don't know. All right, let's keep moving though. The next article is over in 4-Wheel Tech as well. Buy these $35 million Oceanside, well, buy this $35 million Oceanside go-kart track and get a mansion, a castle, and a replica of Stonehenge absolutely free if you're looking to buy a new house.
So those are all extras with the go-kart track?
I think that's because this is a Jalopnik article. But maybe. So it's a 13-acre property located at 215. I'm not going to dox it, but you can go and check it out if you follow the link. It's over in Guilford, Connecticut area, and you have to buy the go-kart. And you get ocean views. So
for all your go-karting needs.
For all your go-karting needs. This is somebody's playground, for crying out loud. Look at that.
I mean, that is different.
It is
this
a Stonehenge
is a very
replica.
small niche of buyers, probably.
$35 million, though. Nah. The article's over at jalopnik.com. Bradley Brunell is the author. The deck statement says every motorsport fan needs 13 acres on Long Island Sound, right? So it features
How many go-karts do you think you could build for $35 million? Go-kart courses.
Yeah, one. Right there.
I think more than that.
So if you're looking for a new house in Guilford, Connecticut area, and you absolutely must have a go-kart track and ocean views, this might be your only option. 5,354 square foot mega main house, which 5,354 feet is not a mega main house. The mayoral mansion has an upper limit. See, like I won't get anything larger than 10,000 square feet. Not anymore. I just can't. Anyway, a 3,583 square foot guest house. So it's bordering on my upper limit. You can attach the two, and that's where I'll be comfortable, right there in that 8 to 10,000 square foot. I'm a very big roamer. I sleep and I walk, so I need a lot of space. No?
I don't know. I mean, there was just somebody got rescued from sleepwalking into like a forest or something.
Wow. Was it a woman?
I think it was a kid.
Oh, really? Because there was a thing on Reddit a while back about how somebody out in the woods, out in the sticks, walking barefoot, but didn't look distressed. Like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Interesting.
Yeah. Walking by animal cams. You know, the little hunting cams?
Mm-hmm.
So like they can see if an animal's come by there. Anyway, or trail cam, that's what it's called. Anyway, there's a small price to pay for a private karting track right on the open Atlantic Ocean, $35 million. Look at that. This looks like
Not
a blast.
too bad.
Come on. Wait. This leads out to there. What is over here? Is all of this yours, including that over there? Because this picture up here, that looks like it would be the house, right?
Yeah.
But then when you look over here in the next picture, it goes over to this. There's a road right here.
Right, which makes that look like another property, doesn't it?
Yeah. Hold on. Okay, so this is definitely that property. Okay.
Right.
So how much is this place going to cost you per month to get incredibly good at go-karting? Well, if you put down the standard 20%, that's $7 million, plus fees and paying your realtor, you get a loan for about $28 million with an average current rate of 6%, and the $990 monthly HOA fee. It's $1,000 monthly HOA fee.
Wow. What do you think the HOA is providing for that price?
It better be, well, I can come up with some pretty colorful things, but I won't. Oh my gosh. Wait, what is all of this? Are these all little houses?
I can't really tell what that is.
This is all a hot mess. I don't know. Anyway, y'all can go and check it. What the heck?
There's a lot of description of all the things that are included. Why does it have like a castle?
I don't. Oh, so, and because these photos were taken on behalf of real estate agents who don't know jack about cars, go-karts, or racing, there isn't a single effing image of the inside of the garage. This property is explicitly built for an enthusiast, but the listing doesn't cater to the people who would be most interested in having a big garage and a go-kart track. Make it make sense, says the author. Well,
so the castle must be the garage.
Yeah, I don't know. Wow. To say there are many possibilities here would be an enormous understatement. All three properties must be sold together unless otherwise agreed to by the current owners. Please respect the privacy of the current owners by appointment only. They're trying to sell. Oh, taxes represent all three properties. So there's actually three properties.
Well, and the guest house is as large as a lot of people's regular houses, so maybe that was what we saw adjoining the main house.
Yeah. But I mean, what properties are actually included in this? This looks like
It's not very clear.
not in these pictures. This is the only one. This is an ugly house. It looks like a boat. It looks like a land yacht.
It does,
Right?
actually.
And there's the
You
conning
think it
tower,
was
and
modeled after one?
it looks like a boxy submarine on land. All right. Let's move on to our last article. I don't know what's going on. System's really wonky today. So the next article and our last one for today is over in Non Sequitur News. 100-year experiment could save beer from climate change, and it's official. We are now stuck in time.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, for until I think it's going to end up. If we can get out of here in the next 5 minutes, then I think we'll be stuck until about 8. All right. So the 100-year experiment could save beer from climate change. Thanks to an experiment started before the Great Depression, researchers have pinpointed the genes behind the remarkable adaptability of barley, a key ingredient in beer and whiskey. Whiskey. Will Wheaton. These insights could ensure the crop's continued survival amidst rapid climate change. Grown everywhere from Asia and Egypt to Norway and the Andes Mountains of South America, barley is one of the most important cereal crops and has been for the last 12,000 years. As it has spread across the globe, random changes to its DNA allowed it to survive in each new location. Interestingly enough, though, it is changing its flavor profile and its expression in those locations. So it isn't as if the same flavors are going to be imparted in your brew or distillation from South America to Egypt to Norway. It's quite fascinating just how diverse the flavors can be. Same source crop materially, right? But different everything else.
Right. It's still really odd.
One of the other ones that is really susceptible to climate change, and it involves beer and pretty much anything, like even distillations, because you ferment and you can add hops and stuff like that. But hops, depending on where the same hop is planted, it has a completely different expression of its essential oils that turn into bitters, aroma, and flavor. So pretty neat stuff here. So Jules Bernstein over at UC Riverside put this article together for futurity.org. And breeders have long understood the need to develop crops that were well tuned to their local environment. So a century ago, they started this experiment in Davis, California, with barley varieties from all over the world with the goal of identifying locally adapted varieties, says Dan Koenig, a University of California Riverside geneticist. The scientists who started the experiment didn't have the ability to pinpoint which genes make barley successful and high yielding in a particular environment, but we can now study tens of millions of genetic changes in an experiment laboratory in a single experiment in Koenig's laboratory. So flowering either too early or too late means the plant won't be able to produce seed, says Koenig. For crops to produce the maximum amount of seed, they must flower in a very narrow window. In California, crops must finish flowering before the long dry season begins, or there won't be enough water to make seeds. But if the plants flower too early, they might be exposed to frost. The researchers identified how genetics enable flowering in exactly the right window and have several genes promoting early flowering and others reducing late flowering. So now, once they have that, they can actually create through cross-pollination. They can basically make a best of breed and then maybe try to grow it in those other regions to see if it'll continue. Breeders competed thousands of genetically distinct types of barley against one another for decades in Davis. The barley that grew best in the hot, dry California climate outcompeted its neighbors and became more frequent over time. So survival of the fittest.
I mean, it's so location specific, right? I mean, and I don't know that people really account for that.
Well, I mean, what I say when I do talks is it's somebody else's problem. I actually referred to
That's true. They just want their beer, right?
Right. They want good beer. They want good coffee. They want whatever. They just want it. And they don't really care how it's or what it, who, what, where, when, how. They don't care. They just want it. And it's largely somebody else's problem. Unfortunately, it's not. So I typically refer back to this concept called the Pareto principle, where 20% produce and 80% consume. That's the general thing. Basically, 20% are create and 80% use. And while I flavor it differently for each of the contexts that I talk about, it largely holds true. So the research team is planning on additional studies to examine long-term experimental data from different climates to understand how the timing of flowering may be tuned differently. And maybe they can genetically modify anything so that it operates within a given climate instead of...
Well, that's true. Well, and I mean, as they figure more of this out, they can make those adjustments, of course. That's a whole nother topic.
So this is interesting. During these 58 growing seasons, the field went from 15,000 genetically distinct individual plants to a single plant lineage dominating 60% of the population, three-quarter with no selection at all by human beings. And I'm not sure that is proper. 60% of the population with no selection by human beings. So humans didn't tamper. It was the survival of the fittest. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah,
Natural
I think
selection.
humans probably did tamper, but...
Well, just putting it together.
Right.
It's human manipulation. So, all right. So now we have to see if we can make it back in time. Make it back to the future. So we'll bow out here, and through natural selection, we are going to fight our way, surviving at all costs to the front page of ohmTown. Let's see. Oh, we made it. Yay. Oh, look, and we made it.
I was close.
Yep. So let's get out of here. I am Mayor Watt, and along with the sentient AI from the future, we will bring you 10 more news articles tomorrow, which is today, tomorrow, the day after yesterday's Wednesday.
Wow, that was confusing. Good night, hometown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non-Sequitur News.
See you in a little bit. Maybe. If we can. Perhaps. I don't know. Time machine singularities are very, very hot. I'm going to have to consult John Teeter.